Welcome to Inside the Club Rooms with Lukey V. Today's special guest, David King from Fox Footy and also North Melbourne Football Club. Welcome, Kingy.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you. We've had another special guest on, but yeah, really excited to have you today and looking forward to seeing what some of your answers are.
I can't wait, can't wait.
Worries.
Get it underway, big fella.
Yeah, the first question I've got here, so you were drafted at pick number, do you remember? I've got it here. Do you remember?
Pick in the 40s.
Yeah.
About 44, 45?
46?
46, yeah.
Yeah, so that was in 1993.
Yeah.
Question, when you got drafted, who was the first person you contacted and what was your reaction to being drafted to North Melbourne?
I was working across the road at the time with Bowen's Timber, and I remember Greg Miller come straight across the road and say to Dennis Pagan, and in those days it wasn't televised, so you found out via phone calls or just people lobbying, and that's what happened. So before I knew what was going on, I was over at the Kangas and pretty much starting the procedural stuff with the information and virtually started training the next day. So
straight into it.
That's how it was.
Very good experience, or was it a bit nerve-wracking for yourself?
Oh, very nerve-wracking. I mean, the Kangaroos at that stage were flag favourites at the end of '93, so they probably should have won it in '93 with a young Wayne Carey going crazy with John Longmire and Wayne Swass and these guys, Glenn Archer and Anthony Stevens. So they were a club on the rise. They're always going to be, thick amongst the finals. So there's a bit of pressure on to get a game, and then whether you were good enough to get a game, how you were going to go. I was 22 years of age, so I knew that I wasn't going to get a 5-year opportunity. It was going to be make or break right from the start. So a bit of pressure on, but it was great. Excellent.
Well, you've obviously done all right for yourself. I've got here 241 games, 145 goals, twice All-Australian, 2-time Premiership medal. Throughout your whole career, the first question is, what's the best memory that you've had? Obviously, you've played in a couple of flags, played with a lot of great players. What was your best memory out of everything? And then second part, what's your most regrettable memory out of your whole career? What do you think you regret the most?
Favourite memory is the same. It's that 5 minutes after the siren, and I don't care what level of football you play, that 5 minutes after you've won, when you sit down in the change rooms, physically spent, and you've achieved something together, you can't beat that. And obviously at the end of a grand final, that's got that extra little cherry on top. And to finish your season winning is an eerie feeling and a strange feeling, but you don't understand what you've done at the time, but you know it's something special, and that's probably the best feeling. The regret, look, I think that maybe there were seasons where you could have performed better at the pointy end. I played a shocking '98 finals campaign, 3 games in a row where I virtually didn't touch it. All-Australian that year and not touch it in the finals is really, it's a horror movie, really. It's a nightmare, and you just don't know what's gone wrong. You search for answers, you can't find them. You lose the unlosable flag and haven't contributed. So that's probably the biggest regret, is that I couldn't have a presence in the finals, and that's something that sits with you. But luckily, '99 we won it, and it probably corrects itself.
I was just going to ask you, so some people would have gone through that, being a good player throughout the year and then not touching in the finals. What did you do the following year or the pre-season just to correct that?
I had a massive pre-season, just really knuckled down. You're not really sure whether it's a fitness issue or what it is, but you just go as hard as you can. And then I got injured round 1, missed 4 or 5 weeks of footy, so it was a waste doing all that pre-season. But had a pretty poor season, and then the reverse, and really made sure that I had a good final series, and probably righted a few wrongs, if you like. And I guess every footballer tries to do that. We always try our hardest, but when there's really something to prove, I think you can dig a bit deeper. Yeah,
that's it. So everybody in the media, in the community, all players know about the Shinboner spirit and the North Melbourne side that developed this. What was the driving force within the players, the coaches, the surrounding committees that really drove the Shinboner spirit, and how did that develop and also continue throughout the seasons that you were at North?
Yeah, there's a few different versions of the Shinboner spirit, but I think you take your own meaning to it. And to us, it was that a club that maybe didn't have the best of anything, really. Didn't have the best facilities, didn't have weren't the most financial, so we couldn't have 6 people in a role. We'd only have 3. You couldn't, didn't have 10 assistant coaches. You only had 5. All those sorts of things. So it was just basically making the best of what we've got and who we are, and that identity of just being all about your people.
It's like the underdog.
Not just that, but making sure that your people were loved, that you're all united, whether you were the marketing staff, whether you were the admin girls, whether you were a senior coach, whether you were a player.
Just one time.
We're all as one, and we all pushed, all fought the same fight, pushed the same barrow, and more often than not, the people would win over the finance or the facilities.
Excellent. Yep. And who was the toughest player that you played against, and why?
Toughest? I had a few that I couldn't control. Don't worry. Look, I learnt lessons off. I played on Greg Williams for about 20 minutes, and he probably had 15 possessions. He elbowed me in the guts every time I went for the ball. While I was recovering, he was getting possessions. And then the guy called Barry Mitchell really showed me how to run. He probably ran, 12 kilometres in a half of football, which I'd never experienced. And he just had me off the bit from minute one. Then you play on. I played on a lot of Indigenous players down back, a lot of small forwards. Guys like Farmer and Ronnie Burns and Nicky Winmar, those sorts of guys. If you had a bad 5 minutes, they put it on the scoreboard. So they just sort of different types, and they always had different ways of hurting you. And you thought you had them under control, and then they'd slip for a couple of minutes and kick a couple of goals. So
that's it.
Quite a few, but they all had different ways to hurt you.
That's it. No, that's good. Since 1994, when you debuted, to today's game, what's the biggest change you've seen in the AFL?
The biggest change, I think, when we played, you could zone out of the game. You could actually drop your concentration and worry about, okay, I'm half-back flanker. We're probably going to be standing somewhere near the half-back flank next to my man, so I know where he is. I know what I've got to do. I've just got to win that next ball. I've just got to beat you when the next ball comes down. Well, now they've all got a role to play, whether they're off, in offence or defence. They've got certain things they have to do to help the cause. That's the biggest change, and whether that's coming up to a stoppage or just being part of a counter attack or what it is, that's probably the biggest change. Is there's no real positional players now. They're all midfielders, or they're all key position players or midfielders basically now, and that's probably the biggest change, I'd say.
Okay. And if you were in charge of the AFL, if you were in Andrew Demetriou's shoes for one day, what would be the first thing that you would change?
The first thing that I would change? Or
you would like to see in the game changed?
Well, I floated something last week to take the computers, the technology out of the game for actual game day, which they do in the NFL. I'm not sure whether you follow NFL or you don't, but they don't have any computer assistance at all. And what it does do, it means the sports science guys can't track GPS. So players just play until they fatigue. They can't track interchange and rotations and those sorts of things. So basically what it means is you've got Mick Moldhouse versus Nathan Buckley in the coaching box, and there are 2 or 3 assistants, no computer assistants, and no sports science influence that, really at the moment they're ruling the coaches. So I don't want to see a David Butterfield versus a Darren Burgess in a coaching sense. I want to see Ken Hinkley versus Mick Moldhouse or Nathan Buckley, and the sooner we get to that, the better.
So more humanise the game.
Yeah, like NFL, they know their coaches, they trust their coaches because that's all they got in game. Post game you do what you like, but in game it's full on.
Okay. Now, during the Wayne Carey Anthony Stevens incident, now I know you might have been asked a few questions about this. I want to know, was there any division between the players? And if there was, how did the players deal with the issue? Like, the players would have been there and you would have been close to one of them or both of them, perhaps. How did the players deal with that inside the club rooms?
Oh, look, after it broke, was a Sunday night, I'll be honest with you. It was a Sunday night. The story virtually came out the next morning, or publicly the Tuesday came out, Tuesday morning. But there were leaks around on the Monday, and once that happened, I think it was the Tuesday afternoon that Wayne said he can't be a part of the Kangaroos Football Club. He has to leave, and he went to Vegas pretty much after spending probably 4 or 5 days in Wagga. Went to Vegas, so it all happened pretty quickly. There was no choosing sides. There was none of that sort of thing really going on. I guess initially we were really worried for Wayne about his health, his mental health, whether he wouldn't do anything silly originally, because it was a mate of all of ours, and he'd brought us so much success, and he was the reason why we won those flags, and he was the club. He was the marketing tool. He was in every media interview that was ever done. He was in every ad. He was the face of Nike. He was the face of our club. He was our leader. He was our on-field and off-field social club, really. So I guess it was a huge hole, and you don't have those players walk out of your club and not feel it. But then you look at the other side and you feel for Anthony too. So really awkward time, really emotional time, a disappointing time. But I guess at that stage we just said, well, we just have to make sure we knuckle down. It was a week and a half out of the season.
Yeah.
It was say 2 weeks out of 15 days from our sort of next game.
Yeah.
So we didn't have time to
Worry about
to really get too emotional about it. We just had to get on with the year, and that's what we decided to do. We decided that the only way we could show Anthony a respect and that we loved him was to make finals, and we just knuckled down for 6 months.
That's it. Well, that's good. Now, you've been in the box in AFL teams. Do you have any inspiration or any aspirations to be a coach one day of an AFL team, a head coach?
Head coach, look, there are jobs to get. They're incredibly competitive jobs to get. I reckon, probably 4 or 5 years ago when I was at Richmond. Hard yards, really tough environment in those days. And I think once you get one chance at it personally, I don't think I'll get another opportunity. I love what we did.
If you were offered the job, what?
If you're offered the job, you take it. It's as simple as that, because
So you've got the passion.
it's a fantastic job, and it's we all love footy, and what we do is talk about the tactics of the game. We talk about how to run a club, how to build a list. That's what we do week to week on Fox now, and all that sort of stuff is streamed back towards assuming that you are that person at that job making those decisions. So you take it straight away, brother. Have you got who's going to offer the next one? Is it Melbourne or is it?
No, they're looking likely at the moment.
Ronnie's put his hand up,
Don't think that'll go anywhere. But so now you're obviously doing some stuff in the media. What's the one thing that you've learnt in the media that you were perhaps naive to, or you didn't know before you started?
About the media?
Yeah.
Look, the media is a different industry. It can be a lazy industry at times. You see the same people doing the bulk of the work. I probably knew most of what we did. There's no real shocks. I guess probably how private the clubs are, how little access you get when you really need it. So that's probably the one thing that I was naive to.
Okay. Just a couple before we finish. We've got a viewer question from Facebook from Kingsley D. So this is from Kingsley. What was your best memory from your days at Port Melbourne?
Best memory? We lost one game one year in 1993. We went virtually undefeated, and the only game we lost, I think, was the grand final. So that's probably my best memory. Winning's everything.
Just
it's the
success
same.
there.
It's the same as any other club. If you're winning, you're loving it. And if you're losing, well, you can please yourself. But just winning, that winning feeling.
All right. So what we do when we interview players from our club is five. I'll give you 5 words, and you've got to relate a player. Obviously, you don't know too much about the players at Coburg, so we'll take it from the North Melbourne side.
Okay.
Funniest.
The funniest person, I would say Adam Simpson is a very funny man.
Okay.
A very clever wit.
Yep. Smartest. Now this is not necessarily on the field, perhaps off the field. Who was the brains of the club?
Smartest, I'd say the smartest would be Peter Bell.
Yep.
He's I think he's a qualified lawyer now, and he owns half of Perth. He'd be the smartest one. He owns a couple of nightclubs over there too. You've probably been to. So you'll fill in his pockets as well. So it's going beautifully.
Beautiful. And now when I say this, most simplest player, I don't mean who didn't dress the fanciest. I mean simplest as opposed to
intelligence
smartest.
in terms of grey matter.
Correct.
The simplest. Well, we touched on Mick earlier, didn't we? I'm not sure whether you filmed that. Mickey Martin. I'd have to say Mick. I think he's a qualified engineer, Mick. He is, seriously. I think he's getting his masters.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Well, that's scary for anything.
Scary. It just shows you don't necessarily have to be that intelligent to be a bachelor of anything.
Right. Okay.
No, he's a very intelligent man, Mick. If you ever hear this.
Okay. And who was the player that you admired the most? You touched on Wayne Carey. Would he be the player that you looked up to the most, or was
there the Kangaroos?
Well, not necessarily the Kangaroos.
Oh, look, I think Wayne showed us all. He was what we all wanted to be. Great fella, great footballer. He'd organise post-game drinks. He'd organise Saturday, Sunday catch-ups. He was the life of the joint, and you couldn't help but want to be him. Even though you were an arm's length away, you were that close to it. You could always enjoy it. We just loved it. We loved what he created. So he was probably the one person we all wanted to be until the fallout came.
That's it.
But that was life.
And the most annoying player to finish on?
The most annoying. I had a guy called Chris Lewis who played for the West Coast Eagles just decided he was going to pinch me all day. He filmed a final at the end of '94. and probably pinched me about 40 times. And I thought, if I belt this bloke, I'm going to get reported, I'm going to get rubbed out, and I'm going to probably get delisted. Right. So I can't hit him. But Jesus, I wanted to whack him up there. Jesus, I wanted to hit him. Chris Lewis, I think he was an All-Australian, he was a super player. Okay. He was a pain in the ass.
Pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Alright, now I was listening to SEN earlier today. I don't know if you caught it, but a question from, I think it was David Swartz, Cameron Mooney, and I don't know if you caught it.
Yeah,
but
no, I heard it.
They're asking if your suit has shrunk. Now, what's the answer?
No, the suit hasn't shrunk. I've just put on about 15 kilos.
Or been in the pizza shop?
Been in both, but probably have more quality time in the pizza shop.
Right,
let's be
okay.
honest. Nah, look, the boys are just hanging a bit of shit.
That's it.
It's all part of the fun. No, Sporter loves it. I think he's not happy with me having a go at Melbourne, so he's looking for every angle at the moment.
Just to give you a cheap one.
All's fair in love and war.
Well, I hope David sees this. And your birthday is coming up.
Just gone, yeah.
Just gone. Okay. Well, for coming on Inside the Club Rooms with us and for your birthday, we're going to give you this pillow. This is from Steve and Bill down at Pura Down Pillows. Okay. They're in Reservoir. You can check them out.
Beautiful.
And you get this Red Bull hat.
Beautiful.
To stick on the noggin.
Okay, chuck that on.
And I'm sure you put that Coburg
District. Give that a run.
Drink holder.
I'll come down here and have a couple with you.
Sounds excellent.
You be playing the seniors? Or
I hope so. That's if Ron picks me.
You don't think you're a chance?
No, I'm in this one.
You're a lock?
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, good luck for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dave.
Good on you, Luke.
See you later.
About the Joker and the thief, I said. I'll tell you all the story about the Joker and the thief, I said.